The wick has been lit. The candle is burning. The Brunson is burning.
The Brunson burner, baby. JB, let's go!
Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com. The candlestick lighter. The one more thing, King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
The Dallas Mavericks, 5-3. Third in the Western Conference right now, tied for third. Home court advantage in the playoffs right now if the season ended after 8 games. But the story of the night, Jalen Brunson. Let's go. What a heck of a night.
Has to be. The candle will stay lit. I will stay in the dark. The candle will stay lit because Jalen Brunson, the Brunson burner, kept the Mavericks alive. 109-108 win in San Antonio. The second night of a back-to-back over the Spurs. And honestly, it was just Jalen Brunson that kept this Mavericks team alive. So we'll break that all down. We'll talk about it. This episode of Locked On Mavs is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to our friends at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it. But a lot of people weren't loving this Mavericks game, Isaac. A lot of people were annoyed with the Mavericks. They were talking about how they were boring. They were talking about how this team is just not fun to watch. And I have to admit, at times during this game, I was yawning. I was dozing off.
Wait, is it a lot of people or just Mavs Twitter?
I mean, Mavs Twitter, like 10, if you see tweets from 10 people, is that enough of a sample size for you? There's a decent amount of people that were saying that, and then all those tweets get likes, and so do we count all those? And like, how do we sample this? Like, how do we get a good sample size? But times in this game, the Mavs looked sluggish. They really did, and they had a ton of turnovers where they finished with 19 turnovers in this game, and they just did not look themselves. Nobody was shooting well from three. Again, 8 of 34 from three in this game for the Mavericks. But it was Jalen Brunson. He did not hide under a bushel. He did not hide his light under a bushel. He stepped out fourth quarter. Huge stuff from Jalen Brunson in this game.
You said a line in that, and I think it's really, I think it's something that we have to be mindful too of.
I love when you quote me back to me. I appreciate that.
It's when you said they weren't themselves. And I think we don't know who they are yet and I think that's why it's not, it hasn't been fun. Like I understand it. It's been so weird because we've seen the offense 2 years ago and it was one of the best in league history by the numbers. And now it's so clunky. It looks so weird. They're sluggish. You know, it reminded me a lot of the Denver game. I mean, that Denver game was just ugly. Second night of back-to-back in Denver. But it's like, it's still beyond like the Denver game and even this game. And I mean, they obviously pulled out this game and won this game. It's beyond the second night of a back-to-back stuff. It's beyond the tired legs. It's beyond all of that. They're just still not on the same page. And so I get how it's not fun. Like I've definitely had more fun watching Mavs teams that clicked better. Maybe that clicked and we're actually fitting together, but maybe not even like winning games. This is why it's so weird, I think, for so many fans that they're 5-3. And I mean, everything I said at the beginning is true, but it's such a weird 5-3 because it feels like they haven't been on the same page hardly at all. And so it's such a weird is the one word I think that continues to describe this season.
Yes, the Mavericks won this game with an offensive rating of 105.8. That would be the worst offense in the league last year, right? And the Mavericks have had this offense the last couple of years. It's been 116 points per 100 possessions. That is, an incredible mark. We've been used to these teams that just play incredible offense that are well run by Carlisle and know what they are, and everybody knows their role and all that kind of stuff. And so we've been used to these teams, especially with Luka. We've been used to these teams that just play really efficient offense, that get it going. But with this, you can blame it on missed shots. You can blame it on some scheduling stuff, a second night of a back-to-back. But they are finding ways to win some of these games, which is important. And I think we should bring it back to Brunson and bring it back to how instrumental he was. The candle is still burning. The Brunson burner is still going for Brunson. That's why I have it still up.
People on the pod that still listen to the pod instead of YouTube, they have no clue about the cold open, what we were doing. And right now, Nick still has a flame. It reminds me of Hocus Pocus vibes. You know how much of a Hocus Pocus fan
love that
I am.
movie.
But anyway, tonight's all about JB, and I think let's have the bigger conversation real quick about JB, and we'll talk about the game in a second. We have talked so much about him. What his role is. Is he just a backup point guard? Is he a six man? Is he a secondary creator, playmaker? What's his ceiling? I mean, these are all conversations we've had over the past month or so.
Well, we had them all yesterday.
But even the ceiling conversation. I mean, we talked about Andre Miller, Goran Dragic, Kyle Lowry, throwing out names like that. It's like, what will JB be in the league? You factor that into the contract situation going into the season. And they ran up to that deadline in October. They didn't extend him. Let me rephrase. They didn't come to an agreement on an extension because once again, we have to throw this out there. Guys, when deals don't happen, it's not just because of the team. So like if Dallas could have very well been sitting there saying, we'll give you the full max that we can offer you. And JB and his agency could have just turned that down and said, hey, no, we'll just hit unrestricted free agency because we're a second round pick. They have different roles than first round picks, and then we can get more money than what you can offer. So I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but it's not just why didn't Dallas pay him? And it's like, okay, well, that might not have been the case. So now we are in this spot. This season can play out. JB can hit unrestricted free agency next summer, and there's really nothing Dallas can do about it.
They could only have paid him 4 years, $55 million. That's it. So he's going to get more than that. And rightfully so. He's been playing great. And so he played great in this game. 31 points, 10 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, plus 13. Him and Tim Hardaway were the only starters that had a positive in the plus minus. So the minutes that he played were all positive, basically, or mostly positive. 9 of 17 from the floor. And the big thing was the fourth quarter. The big thing was what everybody was asking Luka and Brunson and Jason Kidd and even Boban after the game. The big things that they were asking, what did it mean for Jalen Brunson to have the ball in the fourth quarter multiple times in a row when Luka was on the floor? What did it mean for Luka to give up those opportunities? Jalen Brunson, I thought, said it best. He said, it's a credit to Luka. If he calls for the ball, you're probably going to give it to him. He has that kind of respect. Luka could have called for the ball on any of those plays, but he let Jalen Brunson cook because he was getting it going. He had the legs to get him going. Luka just seemed off in this game. He was 10 of 25, 3 of 12 from 3 in this game. And he just didn't seem to have it going, that the Spurs were doubling him, all kinds of stuff. But Brunson could get away with a little bit more. They were trying to get mismatches for Brunson. We'll talk all about that. But Brunson had it going. He went 5 of 5 from the field in the fourth quarter and just took him to the finish line. And that was an incredible display from Brunson. And we have to give Luka credit for trusting in his teammate.
Tim Cato tweeted at the end of the game or right after the game, he said, this is the most Luka has trusted a single teammate since Eurobasket 2017. And obviously alluding.
It's probably true.
Obviously alluding to Dragic in that run. I joked and I said, hey, you're disrespecting Salah. But
Luka does trust Boban every time he chucks those passes or like lobs them into Boban. He trusts that he's going to catch those.
But I think it is something to see Luka. I went back, I watched every Jalen Brunson possession in the fourth quarter and I just specifically watched, Luka setting off to the side. I'm like, is he pouting some? How's he reacting? What's the body language? Is he? And I mean, every time he's cheering on JB score. I mean, there's a few times he's like waiting for the ball, see if it'll come to him. The possessions in which JB ISO'd it out, took it to the lane, and Luka's standing in the corner. Luka's on a wing. We're not used to that. And that's a cool thing. Like, it's okay. Like, to see Jalen Brunson out there relieve Luka. Majority of these games, we want the ball in Luka's hands, right? Like, playoff time, I want the ball in Luka's hands to end these games. Like that's we're not talking about anything with that. But it doesn't have to be Luka every game, every single time. And to see somebody like Brunson that he trusts out there kind of relieve him from that and let Luka rest, a few possessions, that it was so cool to see.
Brunson is stepping up into that role, that secondary creator type role that we've wanted him to have, and we've wanted the Mavericks to have. That we've wanted somebody to step up into this role. He's making us eat our words. I was like, I don't think he can become that guy. Now we haven't seen it consistently from.
I was
Brunson.
gonna say we have to see this for a while.
We have to see this for a little while, maybe like a month at least or so. We've seen it 2 games now, but 2 games where he's played incredibly well when he's been in the starting lineup against, 2 teams that are not necessarily the best in the NBA. So we have to see it for a little bit longer before we make some overarching claims that, all right, they found their guy. But coming up, let's get into how Brunson was successful. Why did he have such a good game in this one? Why was Brunson good? We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, over candlelight, let me tell you about rockauto.com. This episode is brought to you by rockauto.com. They are their family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars, it's impossible to stock everything that you need in one of those local chain auto parts stores. You have to get specific stuff for your car. You have to, the more cars that they make, the more stuff that's just specific to that car. They can't handle everything. RockAuto.com can. They can handle anything you need. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution for your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box. They know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Also want to tell you about betonline.ag. It's the fastest and easiest way to put down some money on sports. You can do that right now. You can put down some money on the NBA. If you're looking for some games to put some money down, tonight, Heat Celtics. An interesting game. We just saw the Heat destroy the Mavericks. 7.5-point favorite. The Heat are at home against the Celtics. That may not be enough points right there. 7.5 points. The Celtics have not been playing well. They got that whole Marcus Smart thing. Miami Heat have been playing incredibly well. They have a great defense. They're playing at home. I don't know. I think I might eat the 7.5 points there for the Miami Heat. As much as it hurts me to bet on the Heat, but if you want to bet on that game or any other games, they have the Christmas Day games up as well. Go check out betonline.ag. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. Get a 50% welcome bonus to first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into this game. So we've talked a lot about Brunson and his role, but how was he effective? Brunson was it seemed like he was letting the game kind of come to him. He does these great moves where he just drives into the post, does a little spin stuff, and he can just stop on a dime, turn around, and hit his little fadeaway shot. He can do that shot. This is one of the reasons why he reminds you of Andre Miller, right? Is that he can do that shot forever. Like Brunson can hit that shot for the next 15 years, 10 years. He was getting those going. But the big thing I thought that stood out was something we haven't seen a lot this year is they were hunting Doug McDermott on those switches. They were sending whoever's man. I think it was Dorian a lot of the time. They were sending that man to go screen Brunson's man, which is Derek White a lot. And then Doug McDermott would switch on him. They did that 3 times in a row, I believe, in the 4th quarter or the 3rd quarter. And it worked almost every time. End of the 4th quarter, 3 minutes left. Brunson and Dorian keep running pick and roll to get, Doug McDermott switched onto him. And then Brunson just scored over and over again. That was a lot of his shots in the 4th quarter. And I thought that was huge. That was an adjustment. And Brunson mentioned after the game that that was something that the coaching staff and he all kind of agreed to, and they were just looking for the best shot possible.
I know I said this the other day, but he looks different this year as far as just his body wise and how he's moving. He looks so healthy. He looks more energetic. He looks like he's faster. He's always been able to score at every level that he's been in basketball. And we've seen what he did at Villanova and winning the titles and all of that. We know all of that. And even in the NBA, he could always get a shot here and there. But it feels like this year specifically, he has a different level to his ISO game that we just haven't seen yet. Some of his dribble moves, some of the footwork on the dribble moves, that was nerding out about some of that stuff tonight of that. There was a possession against McDermott there in which Luka was in the corner. Some of the stuff he was doing with his footwork and those moves it was fascinating to me. And that's where I think he's gotten better. He's gotten quicker. And he was getting to the rim, tonight, even on against guys that weren't, on the switch with Doug McDermott and hitting the shots. That shot in the 4th there when, Luka shoots the late 3, probably a little forced 3. Dwight
should he have driven? Should Luka have driven there?
Oh my gosh.
Throwback to 2 years ago.
Dwight comes down with a monster rebound. Great game for Dwight tonight.
Stop. The people listening on the podcast can't see your facial expression.
Oh, hey, I might have been stretching it just a little bit.
Not stretch fiving it though.
Dwight comes down with a great rebound. And
he did. It was
highlight
good.
of the night for Dwight. It was a clutch play and gets it to JB. JB's like that fadeaway shot in which he turns around and he's like, they can't stop me. He says something like, they can't stop me. Somebody tweeted that out and it was like, he was wording it like, hey, this is, and I'm like, let's go. Give me confident JB all day. I'm here for that.
Especially from, the contrast from when we saw him at media day, when we were talking to him about after that Clippers series, after last season in the playoffs, where he was like, we have to be better. I have to be better. That line is just going to stick in my mind all season, especially anytime Brunson has a really good game, when he was like, I just have to be better, because he got played off the floor in that Clippers series last season. He did. He couldn't stay on the floor, couldn't play. And now he's really taken that to heart. And we were wondering if he was going to have like this bounce back season where he just really goes after it. And he is. Well, he mentioned after the game, he's locked in for 48 minutes a game. We've seen that so far.
And I mean, not to take away anything from it a lot, but they didn't have a great, scoring point guard on the other side. They didn't have a great scoring guard on the other side. That they're not playing, they weren't playing a Damian Lillard, something like that tonight, to where that's
Murray was good, Vassell was good, but they're not Lillard. Obviously.
Oh, Vassell can ball, but like, what happens when they go against a team? Like the biggest thing with the Clippers thing is, we can talk about him in offense. They put Batum on him to kind of shut him down a little bit, but then he struggled, defensively. Like who's Brunson going to guard and all this stuff. What happens when, they run into some of these, these teams that have really good, backcourt, then he's having to defend one of them. That's the next level of Brunson's game. Can he defend? Can he be an average to above average defender to where he's not getting hunted, on the other end of the ball? But I mean, we're in agreement probably that like Brunson has to start from here on out, right? Like there's no going back at this point.
Yeah, if we're going to overreact about anything, I think it should be that. Nobody else is playing at the level of, they should start ahead of Brunson. Like, no one else is. I mean, Dorian can't hit the ball outside of a barn. Bullock is out with a facial injury. I don't know what he hit Eubanks' shoulder, and then he went out. We saw Casey Smith in the replay, like, it was like he was brushing tears from his eyes, but he was just checking his cheeks. And then after he checked it, like with his thumbs, it was really weird, but he was checking his face. And then he was like, yeah, go back to the locker room. And he never came back in. It was just the weirdest thing. Like, did he fracture like something in his face? That's kind of what it seemed like.
Interesting.
But nobody else has risen to the level of starter on this team. And honestly, like it's like the only starter level players right now the Mavericks seem to have is like Luka, Brunson, Dwight, Hardaway at times, and Maxey.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have to credit Hardaway tonight too. I feel like he was kind of like overshadowed by Brunson, rightfully so. But Tim had 23 points. He was a plus 18 in this game, 3 of 9 from 3, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Like I thought Tim had a pretty solid night. So it just goes back to defense, and we'll see. They play a weird Boston team come over the weekend, and we'll see how that plays out. But if Tatum, Brown, those guys are on it, is Marcus Smart gonna guard Brunson in that game? That will be kind of fun. That'll be a fun test for JB. But moving forward, like JB has to start. I mean, I feel like there's no other way around that.
There isn't. There's no other way around it. It's the way that it has to be. He was great in this game. You mentioned Tim Hardaway. He also had a pretty good game. There's times when he was carrying them. The Mavericks had to get carried in this game a couple times. It was not like a team win, right? It wasn't a team win where just a bunch of guys were playing well. They were playing well together. They were synchronized. It wasn't that at all. It was Brunson carried them. Luka carried them for a little bit. Tim Hardaway in the third quarter carried them. Boban in his 2 stints. We'll talk about him in the third segment, but he carried them. And then, Brunson took them home. So that was really how it went for them.
Frank Ntilikina. Struggling a little bit.
Doing too much. Like we went from Frank Ntilikina as a nice surprise to like now they're like seem like they're asking him to do too much, or he's.
I mean, it's what we said on yesterday's pod.
It is.
It's what I'm scared about, that the honeymoon phase of Frank Ntilikina will go away because.
Yeah, is it over already?
No, but it's like what they're asking of him is to be another creator and be like a third, ball handler out there besides Luka and JB, and I just don't think that is his specialty. And it's like, can we just have him defending? Can he be a 3-and-D guard who can, here and there put the ball on the floor? But now it's like he's trying to do a lot off the dribble, and I'm afraid that's just not his thing.
Coming up, let's get into the rest of these players. We have to talk about Boban's contribution. He talked to the media afterwards, which is a good sign that he played well in this game.
Hey, missed the free throw.
We'll talk about at the end how Jason Kidd decided to tell Brunson to miss the free throw and if he should have done that. We'll talk about both those things coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about McDonald's. This episode of Locked On Mavericks is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. Isaac, as a kid, what was your go-to? Like after you reached like you left the Happy Meal stage, what was your go-to at McDonald's?
Honestly, whatever's on the dollar menu. Like, I mean, this was the place you go to after school, and it's like, hey, how many? You got a couple bucks on you because you're gonna get some good. Like, go there with some of your guys after practice and get some, McDoubles and all this stuff. That was the spot.
Do you ever go there and just like, all right, I'll take 5 McDoubles?
Not now. Used to.
I did that for sure in high school. I was like, all right, let me just get like a bunch of them. Instead of just getting like a whole meal with the fries and all that, I was like, give me this.
Oh, no, you just piece it all together.
Yeah, give me multiple hamburgers. That's the thing. You can get the meal at McDonald's. You can get off the dollar menu. They have a bunch of different stuff you can get. Go to McDonald's. So head to your local McDonald's to refuel and reconnect. Did somebody say Locked On Mavs watch party? McDonald's, ba-do, ba-ba-ba. I have to sing over candlelight. I'm loving it. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into this game. So I did kind of bury the lead a little bit because there was an interesting thing at the end of this game where Jason Kidd was just calling for Brunson to intentionally miss the free throw at the end. So Brunson gets fouled with 2 seconds to go. And the Mavericks are up by 1 after Lonnie Walker hit this wild 3 in the corner. And Brunson missed the first one on accident. Like, he didn't mean to. He was going to he wanted to make that one and missed it. And then Jason Kidd is like wildly screaming for Brunson to miss the shot. And Jason Kidd admitted to it afterwards. And Brunson admitted to it after the game as well, that Jason Kidd wanted him to miss it. And if he misses that shot, the game's over, right? 2 seconds go off the clock and then it's done. The Mavericks win the game. If he hits that shot, then the Spurs get it out of bounds. Did they have a timeout left?
No, they didn't.
They didn't have a timeout left, but they still get it out of bounds, and they get to set something up, and maybe they do some kind of weird like hook and ladder and get a shot open. What did you think about the call? It's a risk for him to try to miss that shot.
I didn't understand the backlash on it. I'm like, solid move, like cool, missed the shot, because it's like if he made the first one, then he's definitely like making the second one. Like you're not calling for the miss, because then it's a 3-point game. No matter what happens, like it's just a tie game, even if they hit a full court shot. But he missed that first one, like you said. So why they don't have a timeout? So why not miss the second shot? Either way, like even if you do make it, then you're just up by 2. Now you're giving them the chance to at least run a set. They're still going to shoot a 3 either way. Like there's no way for them to shoot a 2. Like how are they going to get the ball off a rebound and get it to the other end for a layup to win the game? After, like, either way, they're shooting a 3 to try to win or tie the game. So why not miss it? So I actually applaud Kidd for that, and I didn't understand all the backlash for it.
Yeah. I tweeted about it in the game, and I was like, did Jason Kidd ask him to do that? I was just curious if Kidd actually called for it, which he did, obviously. The only downside to it is instead of the Spurs, if Jalen Brunson makes that shot, the Spurs take it out under the basket out of bounds. But since he missed it, is an unintentional miss, and so all that, it doesn't hit the rim. It doesn't hit the rim, right? Not miss the shot, but it doesn't even hit the rim on it. Yeah. Then they get to take it out from like the Spurs bench, which is like
big difference
between baseline and half court. But it's like,
it gives you that extra 4 feet from a different.
I was gonna say it's like what, 10 feet. That's like that's the only downside to that. And then they put Boban in as the you're still throwing
it the length of the court.
Correct.
And you're trying to get a shot like inside the 3-point line to win. Like it's still, I thought it was the right move by Kidd.
Another thing we saw that Jason Kidd did at the end of the game that we haven't been accustomed to seeing over the last 5 years or so. We've been covering the Mavericks. The Mavericks are up 107 to 104 with 12 seconds left. And Frank Ntilikina intentionally fouls DeJounte Murray. We have not seen the Mavericks foul while up 3 late in games. And it's something that we're like, why don't they do this? Right?
I thought he fouled a little too early, though.
He could have waited, but there's 12 seconds left. So he could have waited till he at least got over half court or something like that. But Frank Ntilikina comes in and intentionally fouls Murray. Murray goes 1 of 2 from the line. And then that's when Frank gets fouled. Frank hit 2 free throws at the end of the game,
which
were huge. We talked earlier about how he was doing too much, but that was one time where he really came through.
Because I could be wrong in this. I don't think he had been playing in the fourth, and then, or at least during that stretch, and then he was put in there at the very end of the game.
Yeah.
And, he
played 2 minutes in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So, I mean, coming straight off the bench, and now he's having to, catch the ball on that far side, and they foul him, and he knocks down 2 clutch free throws. I thought it was big time by Frank.
Huge move. And then then Lonnie Walker hits this wild fadeaway 3 in the corner.
I love Lonnie.
I know you do. I was thinking about you when he hit that. And then the Jalen Brunson play at the end, and that's how the Mavericks ended up winning the game. But wild end to it. Brunson, before that, kind of set the table for the Mavericks to get that lead. And, yeah. Who else stood out? We have to talk about Boban.
Yeah, Boban's the only other guy we need to talk about.
Boban had some great stretches in this game. 17 points for Boban. 17 points, 5 boards, 4 turnovers, 5 fouls. That's the entire Boban experience, right? That's the whole thing in a nutshell. But in the second half, I thought he played some pretty good defense.
Yeah, I thought he moved his feet okay. Once again, Boban gets absolutely torched whenever you have a good pick and roll team. Yeah. And, the Spurs team just they have a lot of fun young guys, but they're just not in that stage to where, majority of the teams out there are going to have some fast, athletic, really good, guards running the pick and roll. And they just don't have that.
Think Lowry the other night for the Heat, right? Lowry would have just picked him apart over and over again, which is why Boban didn't get into that game.
Yeah, and well, I mean, they did do that against Boban in a few minutes there. I remember them running a pick and roll, and Bam just got an open dunk on it. So that's where he really struggles. So when you face a team like San Antonio who doesn't really have that, and they're running a guy like Eubanks out there, and Pirtle obviously didn't play in this game. Boban can play, and he played pretty well in this game. Plus 17 off the bench. Solid game for Boban.
Solid.
In a way, he kind of kept him in it.
That's why I said in the first segment that they had multiple guys carry them. Brunson, Hardaway, Luka, Boban carried them for those 2 stretches, and then
KP.
You say KP?
Yeah, I was just kidding.
That was a big kid. We didn't have anything to add yesterday when KP missed the game, and now nothing else to add.
No.
All right, let's go around the rest of the roster. Who else stood out to you? Sterling Brown, I thought, had started the game terrible, had some good defensive plays in the middle, and then ended terrible, right? It was just this weird game from him. He finished 1 of 2. He finally hit an open 3, which is just great to see. But he had some weird moments, but he had some good passes. He had some weird turnovers, weird foul. It was a really weird 50-50 game from Sterling Brown.
Yeah, weird game from him. He at least hit a 3 in this game. He's 1 of 2, so kind of cool.
He was 1 of 2 and 3 assists too. So it's he does give you something, but sometimes it's so frustrating.
Willie, I need you guys to watch for something. If you're not watching for this already with Willie, watch Willie's screens. If you want to call it a screen, this dude
slips every one of them.
Yeah, I don't think he ever sets his feet on an actual screen. He's just hey, I'm gonna run up and just act like now I'm done, I'm out, and just rolls to the basket or gets out of there. And Willie, here's the thing with Dwight. We're so tired about the Dwight conversation at this point, and I hate it because
he was bad again.
He's such a nice guy. We love him as a dude and all this stuff, but it's if Dwight's not in there, who's going to be in there?
I know.
Willie?
Well, it's the same conversation we had yesterday about Moses. Like
Boban worked in this game to where you're all right, cool.
15 minutes.
Boban should be playing over Dwight in a lot of these scenarios. But Boban can't do this against majority of teams in the league. So the next team they play, Boston, whoever it is, if Dwight's struggling and you're okay, well, Boban can't play in this game because it's too fast. They'll run pick and roll and he'll just be off the floor. Are you putting Willie in there? You're you only have so many options. So
with KP and Maxey out, that's exasperating this whole problem with Dwight and Willie and all that is that they're missing 2 of the, everyone's saying, oh, the Mavs have 6 centers. None of them are good. Okay. Well, they're missing their best 2, right?
Yeah. Cause there's a world, right, where if KP and Maxey are fully healthy right now, that the adjustment is, well, Dwight's just not playing much, and then they're just doing, KP and Maxey at the center most of the time with a few minutes here and there of Dwight or Willie, but sparingly, like just little pockets of minutes and not 30.
Both Dwight and Willie set like screens that you're so frustrated about because you're like, just go up and set a solid screen.
No. I want to take Dwight is an amazing screen setter. Like he sets really good screens and he can roll to the basket. Willie just never stands there long enough.
What Willie does is Willie's not a big guy, right? Like he's tall, but he's really skinny, and so he tries to go speed over power, and that's what you do to slip a screen. You'll notice the KP slips most of his screens too, and slip is when you go up to set the screen, like you put your hands over your junk, and then you stand in front of a guy, but then before you make contact with the defender, you just roll right to the rim, like you just roll quickly, and you're hoping that the screener's defender goes up and doubles or traps the ball handler. And so then all of a sudden the center is running down the floor and you slip that screen so fast that it's such a quick action that Luka can then, or whoever's
it's like a running back
the ball,
doing
can throw it to him real quick. But you sometimes like you have to set the screen. Sometimes you have to give that ball handler that space, and you have to give him an opportunity to maybe get a switch on that so that he's now playing against a center. And it just, you don't get it with Willie. And yeah, Dwight is a fine screen center, but he hasn't been that great this year, I don't think.
I don't really have anything else. I mean, obviously Moses didn't play in this game. Josh played like 5 minutes.
Josh Green had an insane. He has like one insane pass every couple of games, and
the
he
breakaway.
Had one. It was a fast break where Tim Hardaway was on the right wing, and Tim Hardaway like bounced past it to him under the basket. And it was way too far out. Like Green shouldn't have been able to get to it. And then Green gets to it, saves it from going out of bounds, chucks it back to Tim over on the right wing, and he hits the three from like over there. And I kind of think Tim threw the pass badly on purpose so he could get the ball back.
I was like, that was a weird play.
That's my little conspiracy theory of the day, that Tim did that on purpose.
It was a weird play. Moses didn't play. Eugene didn't play. Trey Burke, I guess he hit the COVID testing window this time. He figured that out. So I guess he was available.
Him and Aaron Rodgers out at a support group right now.
I didn't see the game notes on that. And that's that. So now they head back from San Antonio, and they'll get probably a day off tomorrow. I'm assuming on Thursday, or today on Thursday. Probably practice again on Friday before Boston comes to town. Yeah,
and right now we're still unsure about Porzingis. We're unsure about the health of Maxey, if he's going to be coming back. Now Bullock is out. The Mavericks are out 3 rotation players right now. It is looking bleak again, just like it did in a certain point of the season last year.
The thing with Maxey, though, is at least Kid put a timetable on. One, we're not used to Rick, ever doing that in the past. We've praised Kid, in the training camp, preseason, everything. He's very, very open about like, oh, just here you go. I'm going to tell you things. He said, I forgot what day, I should have looked this up. When Maxey was first injured, that next day after, 2 days after, saying that Maxey was going to be out 7 to 10 days. So, I mean, we can do our math on that. At least we have like some sort of timetable. If KP doesn't play on Saturday, I don't know. I really don't know what to say about it at that point, because then that's 2 days off. They're listing him as questionable every single day, not even a doubtful, not even out. There's no timetable on anything. So if he's listed as questionable for like 2 more days, and even going into that game on Saturday and he doesn't play, I don't know. I mean, I guess, a kid will get asked about it again at practice on Friday and we'll hear something, but I don't know, man.
We'll see. There you go, guys. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. Go listen to Locked On Fantasy Basketball, the #1 fantasy basketball show on the planet, with the great Josh Lloyd. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.